Oh, yes, you're welcome back to today's powerful broadcast. In fact, I would say make sure that you watch this video. This man you are seeing here, he just revealed a very top secret which no any media will tell you. Now he's in Nigeria. He has gone so many places and he have visited many countries and then he have seen many things around the world. Now he is now exposing the cause, the main reason why American withdraw their soldier from Nigeria. You are going to see and you are going to hear it the way he's saying everything. So because I know many people they are arguing, asking question why and what is the essence of US making people to believe that they are coming to wipe out this bandit, this terrorism and all those Boko Haram that is going around all over Nigeria. So, but nobody knows and nobody understands the main cause. But this man, he has now come out to review the main cause, the situation on ground, and how the Nigerian government bribed and keep bribing apart from the money they have already paid. But they keep on bribing and keep on robbing the US so that they will not even listen to the poor people in Nigeria, what they are suffering from and what the bandit is doing to them. In fact, it's a very top secret. You are going to see it by yourself. For you to understand that the country we are living, they may tell you that it is nothing like Islamization and it is not like Christian genocide. All those things is just a paint word, and all those things is just a lie. There is Christian genocide and there is Islamization agenda. It is good for people to understand this and it is good for people to know this so that you will know where you are heading to. Because once you don't understand the main cause why there is a fight, then you will just be going and just be shouting for nothing. Just watch by yourself and see the cause of Nigerian suffering, why the UK are very silent. They are so silent to the extent that they want everybody in Nigeria self to die. But we are just living by the grace of God. Watch and see by yourself.
All Nigerians need to put pressure on the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Why has the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Army deliberately refused to decisively define the enemy? Every army knows that if you refuse to decisively define the enemy, you cannot decisively defeat the enemy. We're going to discover that the internal agents who are destroying Nigeria, I'm talking about the moles in the corridors of power, the number of persons destroying Nigeria are not even up to 150. But because we refuse to name names, that's why they are still making noise. The second question they need to ask the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Nigeria is this: why is there a doctrine, so-called, when terrorists are captured who have been killing Nigerian army, then all of a sudden you create so-called camps for them, where you claim that I don't even know what you say, you radicalize. I've never heard of this anywhere in the world before. And then to add insults to injury, you now absorb them into the Nigerian army alongside the same soldiers whose friends and comrades have been killed by these people. Is the nation as stupid as that? These things are very painful. If there was no complicity in high places, all these things that we're talking about would not be possible. Is it that 240 million people are so unintelligent that we cannot come together and intelligently establish that the primary responsibility of governance, which is the protection of lives and property, that there seems to be an abdication here?
You mentioned that the people that are behind this insecurity are not up to 150 in Nigeria and that the government is not naming them. But from the way you are talking, it sounds like you know them. How come you are not releasing the list of the names of these people, which Nigerians have a right to know who these people are?
I don't think I even need to speak anymore. My last interview with you, I named the names. From that time onwards, if you look all over
you named Sheikh Gumi.
Yes.
You named the vice president.
Good.
Well, you're talking about 150.
Well, beyond that, already, if you look into the Nigerian social sphere, many more people have named many others, provided with all the proof that you need. It is no secret. What we're dealing with now, because we're talking solution, you are dealing with something that is a supremacist agenda. It is merciless. It is implacable and it cannot be negotiated with. Its stated objectives are clear and clean. Osama bin Laden, he was the one who drew the blueprints of how to globalize terrorism. It has infiltrated, as it normally does. It has a head in your judiciary. It infiltrates your education system. It infiltrates governance. It collapses nations from within. What I'm saying now is that if the commander-in-chief of Nigeria is going to be, armed forces of Nigeria is going to be very open to people. All these people, if you look at all the titles of all their names, they are not hiding the fact that they are jihadi groups. It is not a religious problem. It's a supremacist agenda wearing a religious cover. You would have thought that the government will work to blow the religious cover, but instead, the government has worked to deepen the divisions based on religion. I feel sorry for members of the armed forces. I'm the last person who wants a military coup in Nigeria, especially more so now that the military has been infiltrated by these forces. But what is the point of sending soldiers to die? Now, take away the direct intervention that America made. All these little gains you are talking about, frankly speaking, would not have been happening. Because I've told you that media is a force expander. So they also use media to calm you down. They even have people who pretend to be opposing them, who are actually working for them.
Speaking of America, where are we? I do know that recently they organized an operation that killed the second in command of ISIS. But when will all this be over, as American president promised?
I think we're looking in the wrong direction. And I'm going to tell you why.
We should not look to America.
Beyond politics.
So we should no longer look to America to save us.
I think America has done us a great favor already. The greatest problem in this equation right now are Nigerians. When the American intervention came first with the 2 tweets and then the Christmas Day intervention, instead of Nigerians to respond positively to what the intervention that the American government made through Donald Trump, which I must tell you is something that is totally uncharacteristic from the Western world. We need to just thank God and God only for that intervention, because the American government's prior policies, I served as special advisor to current presidents, even the present one, and a lot of people don't know the amount of work that we do on that platform. I want to tell you that American governments before this one were actually actively aiding the process of defeat of Nigeria and its subjugation to this hydra. There's something in the global community known as the pacification of terrorists with territories, the Western world's policy, which nobody will say publicly. We have been traded off. Nigeria was traded off on the table. They believe we are going down. They have enough links with them to create a new balance in the world to keep their own country safe while destabilizing Nigeria. So when Trump came up and did what he did, let me tell you what the Nigerian response was. Nigeria flooded the United States of America with money. To do what? To deny that there was a Christian genocide. Nigeria, that will not take care of its citizens at home, officially, publicly released $10 million to a lobby firm. But from the charter in Washington, Nigeria's money in Washington that has been sent to neutralize what Trump has been doing is almost $150 million. We all know that we have more than enough documentation, more than enough clout to show that there really was a Christian genocide going on. And then later on, as I had mentioned more than 10 years ago, that in the final stages, there's going to be a fighting between Muslims. The ISWAP is the most deadly of all. The Fulani and the Boko Haram is Kanuri. Kanuris and the Fulani don't see eye to eye. Two predators are fighting to be the one to devour the nation. Secondly, all honorable Muslims who refuse to be a part of terrorism end up being killed. The first time was in Kanu many years ago. And when this current administration responded by pouring money into Washington, let me tell people right now, a lot of people who have been working hard in Washington, I will mention only one name. There's a young man, Stephen Inada, for instance. I want to tell you that when I sit in consultation groups with a lot of people right now, the money poured in by Nigeria has dampened the enthusiasm in Washington. A lot of people who were speaking up before, who had been informed, who had the information, all of a sudden are also coming down. However, the good news is Frank Wolf, Chris Smith, people like that, Bob Destro, Greg Stanton, this Ann Buwalda, Faith McDonald, these are people who refuse to give up.
So from what you are saying, is the Nigerian government bribing people that have been speaking up for Nigeria in Washington?
The mantra of the government today is that whatever problem money cannot solve will be solved by more money. So let's not waste our time. We are dealing with a governance structure that we know is irredeemably corrupt already.
Are you also telling us that the US is done interfering with what is happening
No.
here?
For the US to do well right now, let me tell you one of the challenges. For the Nigerian patriots who are working in the US, it's like a David and Goliath right now. In fact, I would advise anybody who is who is patriotic and those who want to do something about this to find out about a group called the International Committee on Nigeria, ICON. There are many groups like that. I could start naming them. Don't forget that America has a lobby system, and companies like DCI, one of the most popular ones, shameless though, for any American company, the blood of widows, the lives of young men, the raping of young girls, to find that any American company will be making money out of the misery of Africans. Money that will be better spent at home in Nigeria. And if Nigeria doesn't need it, Togo is next door to us, Ghana is there, a few $1 million, we know what it can do. Instead, we are pumping money into a nation that does not need your money, companies that are totally devoid of conscience. These are people who are a betrayal to what America stands upon in its foundation. But the interesting thing is this: men of goodwill in America, I can tell you something, I'm amazed to see these people's zeal to make sure that Nigeria is free. However, what am I saying? Nigerians need to stop believing that the future of Nigeria will be determined in America. We need to stop that nonsense thinking. And if we want to do the solution to this thing the way we need to get the solution done properly, we need to explain the set of Nigerians that need to stand up right now. I told you about church leaders who are talking from both sides of the mouth. I can understand imams who are under pressure, but I cannot understand Christianity's leaders who have sidelined Khan. Let me tell you the truth, which is what is going on. Nigeria has created some pseudo so-called leaders and sent them across to America pretending that they are Christian leaders. And this has been endorsed by Ahabs. And Ahab is a generation of men who know that problems are going to come upon their children. And they are content to enjoy and live today so that their children can die tomorrow. We have Ahabs in church leadership. These are the people who should be crying out loud. A statesman said some years ago, the primary responsibility of government is the protection of lives and property. A government immediately forfeits its moral mandate to lead when that government cannot guarantee internal safety. So based on the doctrine of necessity, we need to look at the younger generations of Nigerians and teach them some lessons right now. There are two sets of people in Nigeria right now. We have the wicked generation, and then we have the digital generations. The first lesson I think Nigerian youths must learn is this. There's this thing that happened in South Korea in 2014. The MV Sewol, a ship, was a maritime disaster. Out of 476 passengers and the crew, 304 people died, including 250 students. The captain of the ship jumped the ship to escape. When the going got tough, the alarm bell sounded, and because they have a culture of obedience, it's like the African culture, the South Korean culture. As the students panicked and they wanted to go to the boats, they wanted to escape and all that, they were given an instruction to go back to their cabins. Because they were obedient, they dutifully went back to their cabins and lost their lives because of that culture that says that elders and gray hair equates with wisdom. Right now, we need to warn the younger generations in Nigeria that there are some people who are trading their tomorrow to enjoy today. So on the doctrine of necessity, it is needful for us to remember that people about 65 and above form less than 3.5% of Nigeria. We need to remember that those under 35 form more than 70% of Nigeria. What am I trying to tell them right now? Let them put on their thinking cap and borrow wisdom. Anthony Nahoro, when he moved the historic motion for self-government in 1953, was 30. M.T. Umbu, a federal minister, was in his 20s. He became Nigeria's High Commissioner in London at age 25. Maitama Sule, if you remember him, became a federal minister before he turned 30. Among the older ones, Obafemi Awolowo became the Premier of Western Region at 45. Yakubu Gowon became the head of state of Nigeria, August 1966, at age 31. Even the declaration of Biafra was done by Dim Ojukwu. He was 33 years old. Murtala Muhammad became the head of state of Nigeria at 36. Obasanjo, who used to talk to us about the leaders of tomorrow, in his own case, was 39 years old. T.Y. Janjuma was chief of army staff, was in his mid-30s. I know that there are some of them who are patriots and some of them who are looking for a good future for Nigeria. But the majority in that generation, we can subsume them as a wicked generation. A political class who, for all its longevity, they will give the lives of younger people. They've weaponized poverty. For all their cunning, for all the so-called pride that they have within Nigeria, they are the most elaborately decorated failures on the African continent. History will be very unkind to them. However, if the younger generation continues to look up to them for solutions, or shall I say look up to us for solutions, they will just waste their lives, because Nigeria will go under that supremacist agenda, and they're going to realize that men of ill will, men of wickedness, when they gather together globally, they have no respect for human worth. Now, the young Nigerians need to remember ENSA's debacle and realize that they are dealing with merciless predators. They are dealing with people with no value whatsoever for the life of the young person. These are the people who came out of independence. So-called independence is a lie. It is interdependence that creates prosperity. Now, that old guard cannot be taught new tricks. Even the one that claims to be the opposition amongst them sometimes is part of the whole charade. The younger generation need to gather themselves together and learn something called direct intervention based on the doctrine of necessity. They also need to read books like Civil Disobedience by Thoreau. They must realize that if they come out together, these people will kill them. These predators will slaughter them. So they have to devise more sophisticated means of being able to protest and demand for righteousness to reign, and demand for men of goodwill among their generations to think creatively and take up the mantle like them Enahori did in their days. If the younger generation does not just want to waste its life, certain demands have to be made. The younger people right now should call for regional defense organs. I'm talking about a vote of no confidence in the Federal Republic of Nigeria's ability to protect lives and property, and demand that we must have regional defense structures. I mentioned that about 8 years ago. Go and check my interviews on television in Nigeria. Number two, if we want to stop all this madness instantly, I think the younger generation need to create a framework, a responsible framework, and let's make a proposal globally and locally to enable gun laws. We want to create a responsible gun culture in Nigeria. This is not something that I would have wanted before. These are the kind of things that, Africans were not really violent-prone people. But what will you do with a government that arms terrorists to kill civilians? And then if you are even a hunter or anybody, you're looking for a license to get a gun. Listen, I remember Kanchaka in Kanu many years ago. Oh, my friend, Dr. Fadipe, he's late now. Very brave leader, Christian leader. Blood in the streets of Kanu. He would say, let's go out. Go and look for the Christians, how to protect their lives in Kanu. I remember there was a time in one particular area of Kano where people from the south stay, especially the southeast, they had collected guns and armed themselves because they knew these attacks were coming. In that particular year, when the people came shouting Allahu Akbar under the cover, using religion as a cover to come and slaughter and to kill, when they faced a volley of fire, look, they screamed and ran for their lives. The next day, the commissioner of police demanded that anybody who has guns should come and submit them. So the complicity of governance with this thing is not today. We saw this in the field many years. So what am I saying? The young people in Nigeria need to aggregate together quietly and make one more demand using the digital advantage. We don't need any election in Nigeria right now until the security issue is resolved.
So you want young people to have guns, to be armed. You're suggesting that
all hunters, every family has a right to that's why I said responsible gun culture.
But the moment guns get into people's hands, which a lot of people will agree with you that it's gotten to the point where people need guns. But then what happens after? Also, you said we shouldn't have an election until this is over. While some people will agree with you, other people will say, but they're tired of this administration. They don't want this administration to continue.
The more reason why we should have what I call a direct intervention. You see, this is where the statesmen in Nigeria should stop the cowardice. The annoying cowardice. Those ones who claim to be statesmen that are with complicity, we need to push them aside. The younger generation needs to come and use its digital advantage. There needs to be a consensus building that until the systemic flaws in the Nigerian system are changed, it's a waste of time having another election. Where America was in 1776 is where Nigeria is right now. In 1776, there was talk about dissolving the Union of Colonies. In 1776, the American dollar was not worth toilet paper. In 1776, there was talk of breaking up. New England was talking about secession. Anything you see going on in Nigeria today is what happened in 1776. And what happened to America then is that what Nigeria could not do in 1958, in 1960, because of British chicanery. And the younger generation need to go and learn about Lord Chandos, Oliver Lyttelton, the one who put all of us in all these problems. When they went for that meeting in London in 1958, there were two issues that were being discussed on the table. First of all, there was the issue of the escape clause. We need to ask for colonial records to be decolonized, to be declassified. You're going to find out something. The British were blackmailing Zik. So at the end of the day, they controlled from within. They were the ones who did not want an escape clause. They made Obafemi Awolowo made a presentation for hours, and when there was no agreement, Lord Chandos, formerly Oliver Lyttelton, asked them, all the leaders, do you agree that Britain should take the decision for you? Naively, and were so gullible, we agreed. And when they agreed, Oliver Chandos came out and said there's no escape clause. That's why Nigeria is facing this nonsense that it's facing today. The younger people need to work with people like Stephen Enada. I'm talking about serious-minded people who know. Listen, America works in a particular way. If we want to get it right, we need to send our young people to come in and hold hands with certain axes for us to have an accord. Nigeria claims to be an American-style democracy already. So why will we not be able to learn some lessons from a democratic republic that is already 250 years old? Let me just drop one thing for you. In the 3 months we need to restructure Nigeria properly, in the 3 months we need to address issues, Benjamin Franklin, 1787, when they were drafting the constitutional, from the beginning said something. There are two passions that drive men to extremities. The love of power, one. Secondly, the love of money. And they said to them, when we are putting together the American Democratic Republic, make sure you put firewalls to make sure that the position that gives you power must not be a position that makes you money. Separate the two. They said because if you don't separate it, men will kill to get there and men will kill to stay there. Let me ask you a question now, Deola. If in Nigeria we're able to bring in that culture and a firewall, that the position of the president, the position of Senate leader, that we're going to be introducing actually a new tropicalized democratic form. We're working on that. If we're able to put this clause in Nigeria right now, that you cannot make money out of politics, you can only serve, would Bola Ahmed Tinubu be president today? What incentive would he have to become president?
Definitely, a lot of Nigerians would love that, but we both know that that's a long shot. But just to recap, for solution, you are saying that young people need to use the power of social media and demand regional defense structures, and
That is
also
in addition to asking the commander-in-chief to decisively define
who were the enemy who we're actually
and
fighting.
we need to give him 2 weeks. We need to have an agreement and give him 2 weeks within which he should do that.
Okay, and you said there's a list about 150 names. But lastly, or more importantly, you said that it is time for people to get arms.
No. You see, I said to you that we may have no other option. You see, unfortunately, we may have no other option because if we don't do it now, it's going to be too late when they overrun us. First of all, let me remind the Nigerian youth, the greatest asset that Nigeria has is Nigerian spirit. There's a Nigerian spirit that refuses to bow. We had a history of slavery, history of colonial rule, you name it. Nigeria has an indomitable spirit that cannot be explained in Africa. It is regrettable there's so much bloodshed, kidnapping, destruction, and all those things. But underneath all this, there's a purpose to all this pain. Something is shifting in Nigeria's mind. The younger generation are discovering certain things. The pain has a purpose. Everything in life has a purpose. So what we think is just pain is that there is a purpose. We cannot let the younger generation go on with the mindset the older generation has. Nigeria is a champion nation of Africa. We have a date with destiny, and the younger generation needs to understand that there's a maturation of the Nigerian spirit that is going on right now, and it will override the older generation. Listen, 126,000 babies are born in Africa every day. 9 out of every 1,000 will not live to see 24 hours. The rest who survive have no promise of education, no promise of a quality life, no promise of healthcare. What am I saying? If Nigeria solves its problems, Africa is free. But this wicked generation has to be confronted, has to be neutralized, because they will never voluntarily give up power. They want to replace with their children. So what am I saying? The solution generation that is now in bondage must not be fooled. Don't let life leave you. Live life. Don't let life plan for you. Plan for life.
A lot of Nigerians will say, where would they find guns if they were to arm themselves?
I'm not saying anything that is. That's why I said, you said social media. I didn't say social media. The advantage is digital thought. The analogs are slow of thinking. The world has changed. All over the world, there are young Nigerians today who, if we combine them with the young Nigerians within Nigeria, will create a nation that will be manufacturing, listen to me, rockets that will be going into outer space, all in the space of 18 months. The potential in our people, what makes a nation, is not meaningless anymore. Today, it is the architecture of thought that determines how rich or poor you are. So when we talk about gun laws and all these kind of things, listen, give that assignment to certain young Nigerians, some in the security sector, different places like that. They will come up with a responsible structure. You will watch the guns being manufactured in Nigeria under 6 months. You will watch consignments coming, and I'm not telling us to do anything illegitimate. Demand on the doctrine of necessity. Demand of the politicians. Why? If they cannot secure life and property, then we must have gun laws. Creative thought, not with advanced thinking, not with sophistication of thought. That's why I told you that this is where the younger generations are different. You see, the analogs think an upload has something to do with cement bags. There's a younger generation, they've traveled, they've been all over the world. Some of them are at home, they are watching movies, they are ideated. Once they break that ceiling that is over them and they take charge, as those people did when they were in their 30s, when they do that, you are going to see ideas coming to the surface. When we stand without being terrorized, it is the salvation of Nigeria. What am I trying to say to you? There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reactions are instinctive. Responses are intentional. The younger generation has to be enculturated and groomed right now to be more responsible, to stand up right now. Look, democracy is a game of numbers. If we say there's not going to be an election, there will be no election. If we insist that we want to reformat the nation, look, even the village idiot knows that you cannot carry a bucket leaking water or a calabash that is leaking to fetch water at the stream. You fix the bucket. There are lots of Nigerian young heroes within Nigeria, scattered all over the world, who are doing great things, whose names are not even mentioned on social media. Now, amongst those on social media, there are some of them that can be groomed. I'll give you an example, like Adiola Fayewu now, for instance. Tomi Arayomi is one of my sons in the Lord. I have them all over the whole place in Britain. In fact, maybe what we're going to have to do is to convene a meeting of the younger patriots who have established and have done something, made something of their lives already, so that they can become the gatekeepers. And all of the older generation that we owe you guys is to facilitate for you. We need to bring you the things you need to know from the past so that you don't make the same mistakes, the things that have to be tackled that are very complex. So it's up to you guys to already begin to initiate conversations.
Oh, yes. Very, very powerful. You all have heard everything this man said. In fact, it's the same thing Nnamdi Kanu was saying when he was still broadcasting concerning the corruption, concerning the way Nigeria is being built. And the best solution is for everybody to come and speak and leave the country and let rebuild the country if they want everybody to be as one. But if you leave the country to be this same way of molding and this same way of system, Nigeria can never work. Even though it 1,000 years coming, it can never work. And this man, he has already said the same reason why any reasonable person will say that same thing this man just uttered here. In fact, a lot is happening in this country. A lot is happening, but not everybody will tell you the truth. Not everybody. Mostly once you're in the power of the corridor of power. So they believe that as long as you are making money, as long as you are controlling people, that means nobody can touch you and nothing can happen to you. Because the government make everything to be on their own side, on their own favor. Even though the poor man that is crying, begging for help or for food, it is a benefit to the rich, and it is a benefit to the politician, because the politician will now use you against your own brother. And that has been the system. That is the why you see the country is not moving forward. And which and who is going to repair the country? Is it this old cargo, the old people that are still in power, that don't want to leave power? the men of 90s, the men of 19, they will be in their 80s and they will still be looking on to lead this digital generation. They don't want to leave power like the young people lead. At the end, you want the country to develop. At the end, people want the country to grow. In fact, it's somehow shameful. Very, very shameful. Well, I would like your comment down below. What do you think about your thing going on in Nigeria? Like, subscribe, and share for everyone to see things happening in the country. So thank you for watching.